Yeah, don't pick Monday mornings. That's my pro YouTuber advice. For the love of that was one of my biggest mistakes.
It's a very exciting day for me today because I get to chat to somebody that I've known for quite some time, and I believe most of you, if not all of you, will already know one and only MPJ.
Good Wednesday morning!
See now, I thought he only did it on Mondays, but apparently by request, he will do it for any day of the week.
Correct. Especially if I get to be on Paul Lewis' YouTube channel.
Wow, we get light. You probably won't, I don't know if that'll come through in the edit, but
what was that?
Did you hear it?
Yeah, I heard it, but I don't know what it was.
It was thunder and lightning.
What?
Apparently, we got storms over here.
Oh god, I love that. That is my favorite sound of all time.
I love it as well. Especially, it's going to go again, I think. There's a flash. Maybe not. Oh, I love a good storm. Okay, so yesterday we put out the call, didn't we? And said, if you've got any topics for us to discuss, there's no formal plan here. We just wanted a bit of a chat.
Yep.
On your channel, we've done some coding, which was so much fun. And we thought, on my side, we'll just have a bit of a chat and see how we net out. So I'm going to, at will and at random, and of course, if you've got any as well, we should just dive into that. Any remarkable development mess-ups, we'll say it like that. You can swap the word there if you prefer. Like dropping a production DB or anything like that. Goodness, have I ever done any of those things? I've written terrible code I'm not proud of. When I first started, we did actually just go straight to prod. Like, we would tweak in prod, but we were dealing with very small sites, and we just didn't have. This is back in the day before Git was even a thing. You know, you were advanced if you used SVN, right? So, I mean, it was very much like, I'm checking out this file on the server now. I'm just going to go ahead and tweak that. I've got a copy on my machine, and it kind of runs, and I've got my PHP and E. So I don't know. By the time I got to the point where I could do something absolutely heinous and terrible, which would probably be Google or something like that. You're into a much bigger process there where people really have, thought these things through. So I feel like I sort of dodged that particular problem. So you basically have. Yeah, that's interesting. It's harder to do big F-ups nowadays because there's so much guardrails. And we have like things like version control, we have pull requests and peer review. Like a lot of it's very hard for, in my newer workplaces, that it's been very hard for me to deploy code that was not checked by another person. Right.
But yeah, I have a good one though. Back in the way I learned development was because I created like this e-commerce shopping site around in my early 20s, and it turned out to be like very successful and was my main job for several years. And it was a custom printing thing, so there were no e-commerce platforms that you could, like pre-made things that you could do. So I basically had to build the things from scratch. I don't think that there were any e-commerce platforms available, actually. Like, I don't think that Magento, that horrible thing, existed. I'm gonna get so much for that. We're talking about like how I should try to be clean on this. It didn't exist, so it was custom built, and I basically didn't know much about what I was doing. But it worked. It sold a lot of things, and then I upgraded to a Pentium 4 hyper-threading server for the hosting.
Ooh, yeah, you did.
Which meant that it automatically ran multiple threads.
You weren't thread safe, presumably.
Yes, correct. I was using this data set thing. I thought it would be cool to have like this global cache for all clients, which was like this data set thing in the .NET framework, and that thing was not thread safe. And the entire architecture was built around this. And it turned out in the worst types of errors. It was basically when you did a payment, it just went in and paid somebody else's order. It was the worst possible kind of bug. Like, it could not possibly have been worse. Maybe if it just had deleted the entire database, but that was like, it was such a mess, and it took like months to solve. Like, the quick fix was just to like add locks everywhere. So that was actually how I learned about concurrency.
What a way to learn about concurrency. My goodness. And were you in trouble, or were they understanding about it?
It was my no. This was my business. So this was money that I lost.
Oh.
So it was not at all understanding of it. It was I lost a lot of money on that. Like, yeah, it was a dreadful period in my life. It was just a big mess.
One that I like in this list, I wanted to ask you about as well, is the start of your career, what that looked like. Why IT, or just, I guess, why coding in general?
Yeah.
And your first job, but it's like, what got you into this whole thing? Like, why are you doing what you do now?
Computers in the first place was, but I think that I did the same jump that many did. Like, I got a Nintendo 8-bit. Like, I'm born 83, so I'm that generation. And then that eventually convinced my parents to get me not a Commodore 64, but an Amiga 1200. Or is it called Amiga? I don't know.
We had the Amiga 500 in our house.
Yep, I know it.
We had the extra we had the extra half meg of RAM. I'm not even kidding. So there's this whole board that was like yay big, right? And you just take off the underside, jam this thing in, and then it was like spot the difference. Every game we played, we were like, that's some new sounds.
Yeah.
Those are different sprites, more colors. What an upgrade. Half a megabyte. Immense. Carrying on, you got...
I had the same thing. There was like this Amiga Overdrive. It was just a thing you slotted in, and it added like 120 megabytes of hardware space, which was amazing. And it also added like, I think, a couple of extra megs of extra RAM as well. Did
you also get Guru meditation errors?
Yeah, sure. That?
Oh, just anybody who's ever done anything with an Amiga will remember the Guru meditation error. The sadness that ensues on the meditation error. Oh. So you've got the Amiga, you've got your 8-bit Nintendo.
Yeah.
There's still a point where you kind of go, this is for me, I want to spend my life coding.
I didn't learn any programming at that time. I don't know exactly why I didn't get into it. Programming was something that I started to learn. So I don't have I didn't study natural sciences or anything like that. I'm actually, like, what I studied in high school, the equivalent, I don't know exactly, like, it's from year 9 to 12 in school. I studied theater.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't have like the normal background at all. And during that time, we had like one, I don't know what's it called, social sciences. It was some class, and it was my only class on Mondays, due to like weird schedule. So I just realized that, hey, if I just eat that, I will fail this particular class. I get an entire day to do whatever I want. And I ended up doing web development, because I was very interested in memory techniques, mnemonics at the time. I learned to how to memorize the order of a deck of cards and remember insane amounts of decimals of pi and stuff like that. And I wanted to create a website around that. So I installed learned to use this called PHP Nuke, which was pre-WordPress. It was just a dreadful piece of software. But I just randomly learned gradually to modify this thing. And then I started hanging out on the SitePoint forums. I'm pretty sure that they still have an archive of the first ever programming question that I asked, which was how to generate from a tree of the tree data structure generate like this hierarchical menu configuration. So actually the very first programming thing I did was a recursive problem.
I mean, at this point, we've established that you've learned concurrency. Well, you learn concurrency after this, but you've got recursion under your belt, and then you get concurrency. But you didn't have a computer science degree then, by the sounds of it. Perfectly, successful career, Spotify, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I went the more traditional route. Like similar, we had the Amiga 500, and then I just campaigned my parents to get a computer at home I could, all my friends had PCs, and I was, forever envious.
Yeah.
And eventually we got the Pentium 75. And I was just one of those kids I was just always meddling with Windows. That's just all I ever seemed to do. It was like going into the registry, messing with things, trying to get like every bit of memory back out of it. And it was like I just couldn't get through school fast enough to get to doing computing. I was like, as soon as they were like, "What degree do you want to do?" I was like, "Computer science." That's a good guy where I'm headed. And that was me. And then it was a case of about my second year when they were saying, "Oh, some of you are going to go and work in operating systems and so on." I was just like, "No, I don't think so." And I discovered Flash.
Oh,
and that was me.
Yeah.
That was it. Flash. Once I got Flash, I was like, "Oh, this is incredible! I can kind of express myself creatively." And I was, see you later. That's me. I was off, and I was doing web stuff, and then traveled around a bit with jobs, and then eventually landed the job at Google, and sort of stuck there ever since. So but I did a computer science degree, and I don't find that I ever sit there going, "Do you know what? This feels like I should use a binary search." That doesn't happen to me. Or like, what sorting algorithm will I use today? Typically, I'll just be like array.sort.
Yeah. And
I'll let the browser figure it out, because the browser is probably going to choose the correct implementation because it's doing what it's supposed to do. And not that these things are bad, but I just it's good to have an idea on them. But
well, I think that they can be good in the sense that I think it's good as a developer to have a general sense of curiosity around how things work. Like, it's good to be the kind of person to just like think like array.sort. How would I do this? How does this work inside? It disturbs me that I don't know. Like this kind of like little sense of curiosity of wanting to open things up. So I think that could be like a very good way of viewing it. Like, just because you can't do that with everything. Like if you do that with everything, you're just gonna like the Russian doll will never stop.
Right. Yeah. I've got down to the atomic level. I feel like I've got something here. Which actually, you tap into one of these other questions, which is somebody who's asking if we could talk about the balancing feature delivery and on-the-job learning. Oh. And that kind of tempering that I think you do between, on the one hand, I want to understand how this works. On the other hand, I've just got to get it done because my manager says get it done and I have a job to do. My own take on that, I mean, has always been understand as much as you can within the time scales that you have, and that's going to limit you. Like if you're like hyper busy and you've got a busy home life and you're swamped with stuff to do, you don't have capacity. But any spare capacity that you do have, I think it's a really good investment to just say, right, I'm just going to pick, React hooks, or I'm going to pick Vue, or I'm going to pick, and I'm going to like. One of the best videos I think I ever saw was Paul Irish's 10 Things I Learned from the jQuery source. I don't know if you ever saw that video.
But I want to.
It's like 8 years old now, I think. And for me, it was the first time I'd ever seen anybody kind of take something that you want to assume is like hermetically sealed and kind of go, I can just prod inside and kind of try and understand why they do these things. And it was such a popular video at the time. And it just expanded my understanding of JavaScript enormously by just having it explained to me. And I think it's so much easier. I think now with YouTube and MDN and all these other resources like that, you're swamped. But that makes it correspondingly more difficult to figure out what do I spend my time learning. And I sort of think, well, go where your interests take you. Right?
Yeah.
If you, like you said, if you're kind of looking at something going, I'd quite like to understand how that thing works, or everybody's talking about that thing, and I'd like to understand a little bit more about how that works. Just follow that. I mean, you can always panic.
Yeah. the learning on the job kind of thing is, I think a lot of the employers do a mistake of not adding some kind of 20% time or component to their working time, especially consultants, because when you don't have like a day to play around and experiment, developers are essentially forced to do it in their normal job. Because as a developer, you need to learn new things or you will eventually not get hired. When people do that, it tends to be like, oh, I'm gonna try this new tool and dump it into this client's project. And that might be a good idea. Like, yeah, I'm gonna try this thing, but I've seen so many places where people just go like, yeah, I'm gonna use Vue here. Because I need to learn Vue because it seems to like the next iteration of development. And yeah, that's correct. But the rest of the project is using React. And now we have to maintain these two stacks where we can't reuse components between each other. And every person going into the project, if they don't know these frameworks, they're gonna have to learn both of them in order to get effective. So it kind of like, it's a bit, I think it's important as an employer, like this is an advice, if you're not a developer and you are responsible for your development team, try to carve out some time for your developers where they can experiment and do like side projects and not work on the main line, because otherwise your developers are going to have to experiment on the main line.
Cool, right. We'll do one more.
Yep.
And then I'll let you get on with the rest of your day.
Yeah,
which will be probably involving procrastination, right?
Yes, I will go. It will. Oh, so like, how do you stay productive then?
Yeah, let's do that one.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Oh, I'm probably a bad person to ask here because I actually have too much on in many ways because I'm doing a master's as well as my job.
You're doing a master's?
Yeah,
as well as your job, as well as YouTube, as well as having a family?
Yeah.
Oh, this is interesting.
So a master's in philosophy of science and religion, which I do, which is great fun for me. I love philosophy. Like, hang around with me for more than 20 minutes and not talk about web, and I'll launch into something.
Oh, amazing.
But so I have that, and I have, as you say, I've got family, and I've got work, and I've got YouTube stuff that I do. For me, it's always been about time management, and it's really, in some ways, it's so ultra dull. To say like, oh, time management, but it's like one of the best skills I think you can actually learn is to just look at your calendar and go, that chunk there, that chunk there, that chunk there. And it's really hard because, as we all know, developer estimates are not always the best. Mm-hmm. My wife would just kind of look at me and go, double it and add a bit.
Yeah.
And okay, fine. Yeah, okay.
I like that the musicality of that statement. Double it and add a bit.
Yeah, and it's very memorable, very helpful, and also eerily accurate. But the problem is, then when you double it and add a bit, then do you double it and add a bit again?
Oh yeah,
because you're like, have you accounted for it in Paul, or have you actually gone to normal by doubling it and adding?
No, I think that's actually like a quantum physics thing. It's like Schrodinger's estimate. If you have double it, you have to double it like again and then into infinity. I think that the doubling, or in my case, multiply by pi, is it has to be done by another person.
My favorite story on estimates is Jake Archibald's. He would find that project managers would come to him and say, okay, how long is it going to take to do this piece of work? And he would say 2 weeks, and they would say, you've got a week. And he would say, that is fine, it will just be a week late. And I was like, what a way to deal with that. You can absolutely have the thing you want, you just can't have the thing that you want. Like, second only to time management probably would be that interpersonal skill. Maybe it's because I've done DevRel for a while, but that being able to work with people. Yeah. Like, would you take?
I think that being I have this video called "Does a developer have to be nice?"
I'm gonna
yeah.
one of us all. I'm gonna do it.
It's one of the videos that I'm proudest about. It's because it's about how Google did this research thing, and they concluded that a strong correlator of team effectiveness is if the team feels psychological safety.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like, which is pretty funny, like they had other, like who you put on the team, like skill set didn't really matter, or like you couldn't see it in the data. It didn't matter enough to see it in the data. And another, like diversity was another thing either. Like basically nothing was a predictor of team effectiveness except psychological safety. Like that stood out like crazy. And you just thought like, psychological safety, why would that matter? Like, but it turns out that what I mean by psychological safety is the thing that you feel like, for instance with David, my business partner, we can go like, yeah, you did this thing bad, or this thing turned out bad, we should do better next time. And we can talk like that without either of us feeling attacked, or that we have to wrap that into something. And the reason why that is not because us two are like more tough, manly men or something like that, or like we are just rude. It's because we have built a mutual trust that the other person has the interest of our product, our team, and I have the best interest of David in mind, and I know and I trust that he has my best interest in mind. He's not being mean, he's trying to protect me and make me better.
Yeah.
And being able to build that in a team makes your communication like an order of magnitude more effective. Because you can just, if a problem is there, you can instantly bring it up and people can go, yeah, there's a problem, let's deal with that. And if you don't have the psychological safety, that means that people will have to be super careful about bringing things up. They have to, like, everybody's gonna feel attacked and everybody's gonna go on the defensive, or people are just gonna not bring up the problems. And then, of course, the problems are gonna like lie and just stew. And that is so harmful in a project.
Yeah, and I think even within that sense of psychological safety, which I completely agree, that's one of the things you just drive at so much, is to be honest and open and all those things. And then it makes it such a skill. Even in that, you still want to be thoughtful and careful and sensitive about, there's still a million and one ways to say the same thing. Like, we could have done that better, or you could have done that better, or that didn't work, and I'd love to talk about why that didn't work. There's so many ways to do it that's still sensitive. But that, like you said, that initial, can I even say that? Can I even go there?
Yeah.
And I know that they know that it's not malicious, it's not intended to harm.
Yeah.
It's such a big deal. It's funny, isn't it, that in all of these things, that whether it's time management or it's that ability to give positive feedback or have psychological safety, as you said, it's the tech skills. It's almost like you'll learn those, right? So when people ask me, oh, what should I learn? Should I look at this library or that framework or whatever? It's like, if you want to, yeah. And I definitely, don't get me wrong, it's great to have the technical skills, but almost always it's about, can I actually work with you? Do I actually want that functional working relationship with you, and you with me? Do we have the chemistry? Does it make sense? Because if not, we're both flogging a dead horse. There's just no point in this whole enterprise, really.
One thing that I want to touch on with the psychological safety thing is that a lot of people miss, like, when you have this very straight communication, they think that it's because the communication is straight that it works. And miss the fact that it's laid on a foundation of trust. So we have like this. You can't just communicate that way with a new person and assume that it's gonna work, because that person does not yet trust you. And we have I think that we have a new generation of programmers coming up now, especially in the JavaScript community, that are so nice and well spoken. Like I love Dan Abramov, like the guy that built Redux. He is such a nice person. Like I just like listening to him. I just find his tweets like a wonder to read. It's such that he's such a good and nice communicator.
Yeah. He is, yeah, absolutely, and I've been impressed by that as well. His ability to remain reasonable, calm, impartially. I mean, he knows his stuff, and he obviously believes in what he's doing. There's no question there.
Yeah.
You know, he has his opinions. There's, again, no problem there. But as you say, that ability to communicate well, build that trust over time, and then of course people know there's no axe to grind here. It's about trying to get the right thing for that person, that individual, that project, or whatever it is.
Exactly. And earlier, I think that he replaces, programmers like him, replaces an old generation of people that, I won't name names because then people are gonna get it like, but there is a bunch of programmers that are very strong names in the scene that have this like borderline rude communication. It's just like bleh. Things just come out of them, and people are accepting of that because they are very senior and they've written a bunch of books, and like, yeah, it's just the way they are. Like, oh, they have straight communication. Like, it's great that they express things clearly instead of like doing cutesy things. And I disagree with that so much. I think that a good communicator is a communicator like Dan Abramov, that he's very polite, he's very well spoken, and he's very talented. The two things, like, I really think that we need to get rid of this brilliant jerk fetishization in the developer community, because I think that it's just like, if you're a jerk, you're really not brilliant. Like, software is not, it's software today is built by hundreds of developers. Like, great software is built by teams. Like the day when software was so small and well contained that it could be built by a single developer, super developer, that time is gone. Right now, like the ability to work with and interact with other people and like explain your code and reason about code together with other people and reason about like timescales and stuff like that, that is the core skill of a developer. Like, code is kind of like this sort of secondary ability. It's important as well, but it's not as important at that skill set. And I think it's so important to recognize that today.
Agreed. And on that wonderful note, because I think that's a brilliant place to leave it, I think we'll call this one done, which now I need to switch to my patter, because we did your patter at the end, which was so good at the end of your video, and it was just like you said, you could do it in your sleep. I don't know that I can do mine in my sleep.
Yeah, like, but I wrote I wrote mine down like word by word and just figured out like the condensed way of saying these things, because I'm kind of like verbose in normal cases, and like the space where you can show like the YouTube thing cards. Yes. It's 20 seconds long, and I without like actually writing down, I just couldn't do it in 20 seconds. Like,
that's just wonderfully optimized. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up if you have, and see, I couldn't do it in one take. I think it's because you're staring at me. It's because I gosh. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you lovely folk on the flip side.
That's very nice.